we go.
Welcome to the Calgary Folk Club, Grace Petrie. We have been waiting a long time to get you here.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm so excited to be playing my first Calgary show.
Yes, and you've been in Canada a lot at the festivals, but not done really a club tour, at least in Western Canada. So we were glad to be able to pick you up here. I saw you at the Edmonton Folk Festival, oh, summer of 23, I think it was, and you just blew me away with your laser focused, sharp, saying what needs to be said in a way that people not only will hear it, but have to pay attention.
Thank you. That's a very kind thing to say. Yeah, I mean, I've obviously because I talk a lot about politics. It's not that's not a universally held opinion, but I think one thing that you can say about me is that I'm not I don't sit on the fence. I guess I let people know what I think.
Well, and open up the possibility for conversation and discussion. Like you're not jamming it down people's throats. You're just saying, here is a perspective that you may want to consider. And that's one of the things I appreciate about you. I know that you've been likened to Billy Bragg, and he really championed you as you when you first kind of were emerging. I would say you share that with him is that you may not always agree with the political stand, but you stop and go, let me consider that with what I'm thinking. And so I think that that's a really wonderful gift that you bring is that ability to open up people's minds to consideration.
Thank you. I mean, I did some work when I was younger. I did some work with Roy Bailey and Leon Rosterson and Peggy Seeger and quite a few other performers in a collective called the Anti-Capitalist Roadshow. And I really learned an awful lot from Roy Bailey, who I adored. You know, I kind of felt like he was like my surrogate grandpa. And I something I always tried to emulate is the way that he makes the whole room feel invited, you know. And I think I'm conscious there will be people in the audience who don't necessarily agree with me about everything or about anything, but you know, ultimately it's supposed to be an olive branch to those people. It's supposed to be, as you say, the extension of a perspective, and the ability, I hope, to find common ground and conversation, as you say.
Yeah, and you also are a voice that is getting more heard now, but certainly wasn't when you started out. I mean, you really took a big step and you know to speak for those people who didn't have a voice. You were willing to be that voice and stand up in front. And so, you know, congratulations on your, you know, because you're A, you're a female, B, you're a little bit of a thing, but you have a very big voice that demands to be heard, which I, you know, really caught my attention, and I know the audience at our club will really appreciate.
Well, I'm really happy to be coming to Calgary. It's funny. The first time I ever came to Canada, I flew into Calgary, and I landed in the middle of Stampede. And I had never heard of Stampede. I didn't know what was going on, and it took me such a long time to understand what was going on. I just stepped out of the airport. I was really jet lagged, and all of the buses had just had their numbers and their destinations from the front of the buses had all been, you know, removed, and they just said "Happy Stampede," and I had no idea what was going on. So,
What?
you know, I feel like it was that was my introduction to Canada. Was everybody is wearing cowboy hats and plaid shirts,
Yeah,
which is actually what I was also wearing, just because I'm a lesbian and that's what I wear most of the time, you know.
felt right at home, but it's also probably the only airport you've ever stepped out into that had bales of straw and wood signs around and all of that kind of stuff. It's yeah, it must have been a bit of a shock, but I'm glad that you're willing to come back anyway. Now, one of the things also is that you have a whole separate career from your folk singing and political protest kind of thing, in that you do comedy as well, and you have a whole comedy show. Now, I know that you're not doing the comedy show here, but I suspect that we'll get a little taste of it in some of your storytelling.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have a kind of reputation that I think is deserved for kind of talking a lot between songs and you know, these kind of rambling introductions. I mean, how it started was that I got a lot of work opening up for stand-up comics in the UK. I toured with Josie Long and Robin Ince, and I've done a lot of work with the Guilty Feminist podcast, which is a massive comedy podcast over here. And you know, I was always the person shuffling out with the guitar and singing these really serious doom and gloom protest songs, right? And so and I could just see the audience's faces kind of fall when I was introduced. So I got into the habit of just trying to lighten the mood in between songs and trying to say something funny and tell a bit of a story, and just kind of, it started out just trying to convince people that, I'm going to talk about politics, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to burn my bra. Don't worry. Like, we're going to have a good time here. I can take myself hopefully not too seriously. And then I just found that I really, really enjoyed that. And I think there's a tradition in folk music of the storytelling in between songs, and, people like Billy Connolly, and again, Roy Bailey. I think that's something that I've always really loved, is the kind of, yarn spinning troubadour. So I guess it was kind of inevitable that eventually I would go, okay, all right, let's try this without the guitar, and we'll just do the, stories and jokes for an hour. And I found that I really loved it. So I'm sure that I'll get around to yapping in between songs in Calgary.
Yeah, well, the storytelling tradition, our club is based on the British model of folk clubs, and so the storytelling tradition is certainly front and foremost for people. And I think what you'll find is our audience hangs on the lyrics as well. Like they really are very lyric driven singer-songwriter storytelling. So it's a perfect fit. November the 1st at the Calgary Folk Club Live. Of course, people all over the world can join us by the live stream, which is also available for 3 days following, so they don't have to stay up to the middle of the night. Opening for you that night will be John Hewitt Trio out of Edmonton. And we're super, super excited to have you join us at the Calgary Folk Club.
Me too. I can't wait. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. We'll see you in November.
I'll see you then.